What's up, guys? My name is Khan, and we're back today in Scrap Mechanic with another awesome creation. And this creation is sort of another improvement on a really old creation that just, needed improvement. And that is, of course, this epic cargo container here. Of course, it's not just a cargo container. Like everything we do on this channel, it's got some extra features, and this is actually a new and improved cargo container drop pod system. A while ago, I had built a drop pod and it was pretty good. It was small, it deployed a small vehicle, and there was one for people as well. And then I made a bigger drop pod, which again, same thing. But the biggest problem with the drop pods was the fact that if you put different weighted objects inside of the drop pod, then you had to reconfigure all the thrusters to make it actually work. So you had this issue where no matter what objects you were putting in the drop pod, as you put different objects, heavier objects, lighter objects, whatever, your drop pod would either fly too fast, slam into the ground too hard, or not even fly at all. And these were all sort of issues. But of course, with the addition of the mod pack and the number logic, we have the ability to make a drop pod that is 100% automatic adjustable for whatever weight you put in it, no matter what you fill your drop pod with. So before we look at how it works, we're just going to we're going to send a couple Jeeps up to the top. So we've got a very large container here. I figure it's big enough for at least a couple vehicles. And, just kind of looks like a shipping container because it's really just a box, but I figure, you know what, let's make it look kind of like a shipping container. And then we've got this little sort of button here. So of course, the whole thing does work with radio controls. You got to make sure your transmitter is set to the same as your receiver, and your receiver's in here. And of course, we can use the orange and brown buttons to change what channel it's on. We can also paint it if we wanted to and have it a different color. And then the red is sort of an emergency weight reset button, but we'll get to that afterwards in a sec. But really, it's all on just a single RC transmitter receiver combo, and the transmitter has one button hooked into it, this green button. So we press it, it goes, and then when it gets to the ceiling, we press it again, and it'll come back down. And so it does auto adjust, and the way it works really simply is it has a sensor on the bottom and it has a sensor on the top, and it works with adjustable thrusters. So in the mod pack, there's thrusters that you give them a number input, and that specifies how much power that thruster has. So rather than adjusting each thruster manually, you can just feed them numbers. And so what we do is we look at the sensor on the bottom, we look at the sensor on the top, and we say, okay, I've sent the request to go up, and the sensor on the bottom is still lit. So keep increasing the thrust until that sensor underneath the entire crate is no longer active, and that means that you've lifted off the ground far enough to actually go somewhere. And then on the other end, on the roof, it's the same thing. When you want to come down, it says, okay, I have a sensor on the roof. Start decreasing the thrust until I don't see the sensor on the roof anymore. So we can just hit this green button, and the thrusters will turn on, and that means it's running, but you can see it's actually slowly just picking up momentum, picking up, and there it goes. And now the doors will close, and we've got a cargo container. Now, it will stabilize itself automatically. It's really awesome using those gimbal thrusters from the mod pack. Because the gimbal thrusters are at the top of the crate and all the weight you put is in the bottom of the crate will pretty much always fly straight vertical, and it'll always stay stable. So that's kind of nice, and it'll just fly up. Now, we don't really have any indicator here to let us know when it's on the roof. The remote control stuff, the way it is now in the mod pack, it's great because there's no connections you can see, but the big problem is everything you want to transmit / receive, you have to have one transmitter, one receiver. So I didn't want to have to put a second RC block on that and have a transmitter come down, but we could have multiple crates, of course, and just have them all on different channels, but you'd have to remember which crates are on which channel. So you could have a bunch of crates at the top of the map all on different channels, and only the secret channels that all your crates are on. So you could have them painted different colors. You could have them on channel 200 in a different color, and no one will be able to tell which crates are which. I mean, they could probably just use explosives to get them down or something, but I think that one stopped moving. I'm pretty sure. So I think we can hit this button again and it should come down. So we'll hit that button and we should see it eventually. It's so hard to tell. So it isn't like the old drop pods. It doesn't slam itself into the ground really, really fast. The old ones kind of did that. They'd come in and they'd just activate their thrusters at the last second to flare. And that was a really cool idea. But with this one, I didn't want to do that, mainly because I wanted to be able to load in, vehicles just like that. Like, we just drove that in. We didn't weld it in or anything like that. It's not mounted to the drop pod. We didn't even try and position it in the center. We just put it wherever we felt like it, and it stays stable within the drop pods. So that was kind of the intent with these drop pods, is to make sure that, you could just load up whatever you wanted in the cargo containers, and no matter what the weight is, it'll just fly up, sit at the roof of the map, and then, you can recall it to whatever down position you want. I mean, I don't really know what the purpose of this is, but I don't really know what the purpose of the old drop pod was either. And here we go. Our container, it kind of slams down a little bit there, and our car here is good, and we can just take our car and we can drive it back out. So really simple, awesome stuff. And then of course, when our drop pod's landed, you'll see the thrusters are still on. Now, we can turn those thrusters off by hitting this reset button. The main reason you want to sort of do that is because the weight of this is technically calibrated for that vehicle. And although when you pull the vehicle weight out, all the thrust has still been decreased, there is a chance that if you have enough weight in here and you pull it out, it'll go shooting off the ground. So really, you want to actually come in here, hit that red button to shut off all the thrusters and make sure it resets the weight to 0. We'll just, we'll load up 2 of them here and we'll get them all situated, and then we'll spawn another one and just take a look at how this works on the new one. So we'll just, we'll load this one up here. No problem. We'll drive it right up to the end, and we'll load up this second one. And again, as much weight as you can put in. Like, these are 2 vehicles. We could put in a giant brick of metal blocks, which we'll actually look at after, because, you know, there is literally no weight restriction. Just the more weight you put in means the longer it'll take in the very beginning to get off the ground, because it has to sort of figure out what that weight is. So here we go. We've got our 2 Humvees loaded in. They should be good enough. The door will close, no problem. And we'll just hit that green button again, and the thrusters turn on, means it's good to go. And we'll give it a second, and there it goes off the ground. Perfect. And now we've got 2 Humvees, so we'll have 2 of them stored up top. Not really sure, but you know, if we ever need them, then we've got them. All right, so I've spawned us a second one here. Now we do have 2 transmitters right now on the same frequency, so let's just delete this second one really quickly, because they spawn default, I believe, orange 1. So it shouldn't screw anything up with that other one, but you can't have 2 transmitters on the same frequency. It'll send weird signals. So we'll remove that one, and we'll actually change this one to, oh, it's on orange 0. Okay, let's change it to, oh no, it's on orange 1. It just wasn't updating. Okay, well, let's change it to orange 2, and that way it's good. Or we can change it to white, but we'll leave it on orange 2. So really simply, if we look at this container, we can actually get up on the top here, and you'll see there's not really a whole lot to these containers. I mean, the drop pods pretty much had the exact same logic, to be perfectly honest. It's not a whole lot of logic you needed. Theirs was just a little bit different. So we've got, you know, our 4 vertical gimbaled thrusters in the corners. They help lift the whole weight, and they're all equal power. And they just receive basically 2 signals. One signal to turn them on and off, and the second signal to actually tell them what power level they're at. And really simply on this circuit, it's a little bit complicated, but all we're really doing is incrementing the number. So on one side here, you'll see we've got a ticker circuit, and on the other side here, we've got another ticker circuit. And the orange one here counts up, and the brown one counts down, and it's very important. And all that is a multiplication factor. So I think the default power on the thrusters in this situation is, I believe, 3,500 or 3,000 or something like that. And every tick, it increases it by 100. So it just keeps adding and adding and adding and adding until eventually it gets to the point where the thrust can lift it off the ground and the sensor on the bottom is not activated. So really simply, when we turn on the system, it activates a NOR memory bit in here, which then in turn says, okay, as long as this memory bit's active and the bottom sensor is active, so the sensor way down there, then keep incrementing up and up and up. So until the crate gets 20 blocks off the ground, you keep incrementing the power level. And then once you're 20 blocks off the ground, stop and wait, and then, you know, fly up to the surface. So actually, you know what? Let's just put a chair down here on the top, and we can just fly it right up to the top there. And we'll put some weight. Do we need any weight? Nah, you know what? We'll leave it empty, and we'll just fly up to the top. So we'll just put a manual button here to start the whole system, and that just ties into this green one. And we'll just sit in the seat, and if we press 1, you'll see it turns the thrusters on, and you'll see that flashing circuit. So that's constantly incrementing that 1 counter block and then multiplying it by 100 and adding it to the total power of the thrusters. So eventually it gets off the ground, and you'll see it stops blinking that circuit, because now we're off the ground and we're moving in an upward direction. And you can see the weight of this crate is actually slightly off. It's slightly heavier in the front for whatever reason. I guess just because the door weight or whatever, but it's not even going up perfectly straight. But this doesn't even matter at all. And once we get to the top, you'll see the seat is obviously going to slam into the ceiling. That's going to give us some weird layout up at the top. But again, it's not a big deal. It literally, with those gimbal thrusters, you don't have to worry about your crate flying off in a weird direction or stabilizing it or anything like that. Even if we put a really offset weight in the container, it'll still fly up just at some weird angle. And we can actually demonstrate that afterwards. But let's just get up to the top here. Hopefully we don't hit that other container. We should be pretty good, though. They should be, like, right next to each other. So that one's got our 2 cars in it. And you see, well, now we're all tilted in a weird direction. But again, it doesn't really matter. And if we press 1, we should see, hopefully, let's, first person, this is even better. There, if we press 1, you should see now it's incrementing that brown circuit until eventually the entire container starts dropping. And then it goes, oh, we've dropped. We're continuing to drop. Okay, now our sensor is no longer lit, so we're no longer on the ceiling. So now we can stop incrementing. And this kind of gives you that smooth up and down. So no matter what weight you put in, this cargo container actually moves at almost the same speed every time, because the amount of time it takes to get from 20 blocks below the surface with the sensor is pretty much the same when you're incrementing the power levels. So you can see here, every time we land and activate the sensor, we're actually dropping it even more because it thinks we're on the roof. But really, really cool system. Works on a single button. And of course, we can get back down and recall our other cargo. Can we stop? Can we? No, we're just, okay, we'll bounce. That's fine. Perfect. All right, so we'll just remove these buttons and we'll recall our other cargo container, which I believe was orange 1. Yeah, so we should be able to hit this and it should start coming down there eventually. It'll have to obviously calculate how much weight it's got to remove. And then this one here, we'll just, we'll put a weird brick of metal in the back of it just to really show you guys that it doesn't really matter how much weight you put it and how offset you put your weight. So we'll just put a bunch of metal on the one side only and just, whatever, just a bunch of metal. I think this is enough. And then we'll send this one up. And this one, we can reset the weight on it. Hit the red button there. All right, orange 2, here we go. Our other container's coming back down. Let's send this one up. Okay, so it should be starting. Oh boy, we got some lag. I think the Humvees might have shifted a little bit inside that container. Generally speaking, I would only put one vehicle in a container, obviously because of lag. There we go. You can see as soon as it slammed into the ground, they rearranged themselves. But perfect. We've got our 2 vehicles. They kind of went offset to the one side, but then of course we're going to want to hit this red button first. Otherwise, you know what? Let's just see that container. Look, it's going up at a completely weird angle now, but it's still going to go straight, slam into the ceiling, no problem, and come back down, no problem. So here, we'll actually see if we can get this to work. So let's back out with this one without resetting the button, and we'll see if you guys, if it's enough weight to launch the whole thing off. It might not be enough weight because, of course, it does decrease the thrust a fair amount when it comes back down. But if this is enough weight, the whole container might just launch off. And no, it's still, see, still not enough weight. So it did decrease it by enough. But, just for safety's sake, you might want to hit that red reset button when it comes back down. Overall, guys, though, I think it's a really cool creation, and I'm really happy with it. I mean, it's obviously, not really terribly practical for survival or anything, but I think it's pretty cool to be able to, just press a button, have your cargo container take whatever you want in it, and just go up into the skybox and sit there until you need it back. And of course, you could have many different crates up there. So I think we've got one on orange 1, one on orange 2. I don't really want to spawn a third just yet, but let's bring that number 2 one down. And I think it's at the top. I mean, it looks like it's moving. I think the next logical thing to do would be, of course, to take this same crate idea and then put some horizontal movement as well. So it goes up to the skybox, moves to a new position, maybe a GPS controlled position, and then comes back down in the new position. So of course, you could send packages to your friends. You can see here, we've sent this giant metal crate to somebody for no reason. But of course, let me know what you think in the comments down below and any other suggestions you have for other builds. This was one of those builds that I really wanted to go back and fix the drop pods, because the biggest problem with the drop pods I found was the variable weight issue and the fact that you couldn't account for different weights. And once the mod pack came out, that was honestly my first thought was, if we can adjust thruster power with a number, then we've got to be able to make some sort of a crate or a device or a drop pod that can adjust itself for any weight that you put inside of it. And that's exactly what this does. So I encourage you guys to check it out, and of course hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.